Hey everyone, welcome back to another Cities Excel 2012 tutorial. This one's actually going to be about blueprints. Now, blueprints are actually very nice. I would recommend to start building blueprints once you get an actual good, strong economy and a good amount of resources from all your specialized cities. Blueprints can be located on the top, bottom left side, sorry. It's called the pack file. You open up the pack file, you have three different types of blueprints. You have Americas, Europe, and Asia blueprints. Now, once you click on, let's say, the Americas, you have the second tab, third tab, sorry, that being the blueprints. Now, you have obviously different types of blueprints for the Americas. Now, if we go to Europe, again, same thing, third tab, we got the blueprints for Europe, and the same thing for Asia. Now, don't underestimate the blueprints. You can say, 4 different tiers of blueprints. The first tier is costing around 10,000. So let's find, here we go. The first tier costing around 10,000. Now, the first tier, of course, does improve all of the first tier blueprints, no matter from which you can say continent you do select the blueprint from. The first tier being classified as costing up to 10,000 credits per month will improve just a little bit of quality of life, and of course give you that bonus that it says it does. Now, the first tier has 2 stages of building. It means when you do place down that blueprint, you are requested to supply resources. Let me just go out of here and go to one of my test cities and show you what I mean. Now, welcome to my test city. Here I'm actually going to finally show you how the actual blueprints work. So, for example, the first tier, as I mentioned before, is 10,000 monthly cost. That being, let's say, any one for the cost of 10,000. That being this one or this one. Or let's just build the first one. As you see, when I do select that, it's going to give me phase 1. I'm going to have to supply 50 offices and 5 of the second class, that being skilled workers. And then you have phase 2, and then you need, this is the requirements, so don't underestimate. You're going to need 30 tokens of actual heavy industry, 20 tokens of electricity, 20 tokens of executives, 10 tokens of skilled, and 50 tokens of offices. So that is just, you can say, the second tier. Now why don't we take it up a notch and let's go to the last one. This is the no, let's actually go in order. Let's then go to tier 2. Tier 2, as you see, is costing you 25,000. Of course, it has a bonus. The quality of life is obviously just a little bit better. And you do have phase 1, as you see, phase 2, and now you have 3 phases. There are in total four tiers, but only phase 1 has a 2-phase build-up, while tier 2 to tier 4 have all a 3-phase build-up. Now, as you can see, tier 2, the great difference in resources and tokens required. So really don't underestimate the amount of tokens you need. You need a lot of tokens. This is just phase 2. Now let's jump to phase 3. Phase 3, of course, being now at 50,000. So let's take the football stadium. Phase 3 being at 50,000. Now look at the amount of additional resources it requires. Already on phase 2 you do need 60 heavy industry on 30 unskilled, and the last phase obviously does need 30 waste. So obviously the phase 3 and phase 4 required more, you can say, high-end services and goods to complete it, and quite a lot of it, and it does take a lot of time. Minimum construction time, as you see here, is 19 hours 27 minutes. Of course, if you do speed it up to maximum speed, you're not actually going to wait that long. If you have it at speed 5, this might take you, even if you supplied all the resources, all the tokens and everything it requires, this might take you maybe 45 minutes to an hour to build instead of 19 hours, you know. Now you have of course the tier 3, which I just showed you, that being at 50,000, is obviously going to give you more quality of life. Of course, the effect, including the actual bonuses, that being 5% leisure satisfaction and 1% citizen satisfaction. This, of course, affects the whole city. The range is the city. Now, the final tier, that being the 4th tier, you only got 2 of them. One of them is, of course, the nuclear plant, which gives you 10% electricity tokens. It doesn't affect any you can say quality of life. It just gives you 10% city tokens. That means the tokens you have in general, all the tokens for electricity, it gives you plus 10% bonus. You can say it is like a specialization building. Of course, this costs you 50,000 credits, so make sure you have enough tokens to cover the cost of the actual fixed cost. So this is practically it. Of course, the fourth tier, as you can see, is even more requirement, has a higher requirement, already starting from phase 1 all the way to phase 3, then the general 3 tier. This is pretty much it for the actual blueprints. Again, keep in mind, don't underestimate the requirements for these blueprints. The demand and resource requirements for these blueprints is very high, and you should keep that in mind. And of course, do put in mind also where you position the blueprints, as the blueprints do have a massive radius effect as well. So of course the smaller tier blueprints have a smaller circle effect, while the larger tier have a much larger effect. If we go back to my city that actually has a lot of these blueprints, and we do decide to go to the environment and then we select landmarks, you can see the actual radius. Now you do have, of course, a small one here, this being the Tokyo Tower, which is only 10,000 credits, but look at the landmark quality of life effect, the radius of it. This radius is maybe around 600 to 800 radius, and then you have a much larger one over here, this being the Christ the Redeemer, which is a 25. This is tier 2. So the tier 2, obviously, you can see it has a radius of maybe around 1,000. Okay, you do see that 1,000 radius, while the larger, you can say, quality of life effect in a way is, you can say, substantially larger, even though it is a tier 1, but the quality, you can say, the quality of life improves. The quality of life is substantially, the radius is substantially greater than this one in general. So do keep in mind that even though the tier 1 may have more bonuses or less bonuses, that some of the actual blueprints in lower tiers do have a larger quality of life effect. Now, of course, the quality of life effect from a tier 1 is very, very weak. So don't expect it's going to last if you build anything, any hotel, it'll eat it up immediately. So yes, it may be large, but no, it is very, very weak, especially since it's a tier 1. So this really doesn't count. Yes, it is nice that they do have a little bit of quality of life, but a tier 1 obviously is going to have minimal effect in terms of quality of life. All I'm really requiring from tier 1 is the actual bonus. Well, this is practically it in terms of what you do need to know for the blueprints. In general, I would tell you to really start the blueprints later on in the game. They do help you out in terms of getting the satisfaction for the citizens up. Try to build them in the center, as it does have a radius effect. And don't rely on the city effect of the actual blueprints, as it's not really that great. The radius effect is substantially greater. The bonus, of course, is a complete citywide effect, but that's practically it. You do have a little bit of quality of life for the lower tiers around in the radius effect, as you do see here. And of course, a substantially stronger and more, you can say, a lasting quality of life for the higher tiers for the blueprints. Well, this is it. As always, happy gaming. Give it a thumbs up, and see you guys in another tutorial. Bye.